Who is the best WWE champion of all time? Well, this tournament's you are. This tournament tries to figure that out, and right now we're on round 3, part 1. It's split into 2 different parts, not 4 parts like the last one. But before we get into those matches, we have to go over the 4th section of round 2 results, which were as follows: The Undertaker beat Iron Sheik 39-2. Very happy about that. Undertaker. Iron Sheik did not humble enough people to get this vote.
He's a fucking jabroni. Fucking jabroni.
Randy Orton and Sheamus went to Randy Orton 34-3. Not really surprised there either, because Sheamus had 2 terrible title reigns. Count that 3 if you count the World Heavyweight one. The Rock beat Bob Backlund 32-5. So pretty much it was 30-something to a small number for all these. This first round kind of things are actually getting a little bit easier, it kind of seems. I expected The Rock to beat Bob Backlund. Not really surprised on that one either.
And we all expected that to happen. You know, no offense to Bob Backlund, his title reign meant something on both occasions, but The Rock basically was in a better era. You know, he was utilised a lot more than Backlund was.
Yeah, it's a shame that Backlund wasn't a part of the next group of Big Show and Psycho Sid, because I would have voted for Backlund over either of those.
Yeah, I agree. But I'm surprised Big Show has gotten so far. I think that
Big Show beat Andre the Giant and Psycho Sid. He's king of the mountain as far as the big men go. But he's clearly losing next round. He's no way he's beating The Rock.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I think that the Andre should have beaten Show anyway. But that's me.
Yeah, you convinced me otherwise when I had originally voted for Big Show, and I agree that Andre should have beaten him. But Big Show did win 23-16. So,
and he was definitely the lesser of 2 evils here. If I would see one person move on from him or Sid, it'd have to be him.
Right.
I am the master and the ruler of the world.
Outro. Flashbacks of that.
But he has half the brain that you do.
Yeah. And apparently half the leg. Ouch.
If anyone actually sees that on YouTube, it is disgusting.
That's so terrible. Round 3, part 1. The 4 matches that we have for that. First up, John Cena against John Bradshaw Layfield. John Cena beat Layfield for his first title, and he's winning right now 16-3. I voted for John Cena over
Cena. Yeah, absolutely.
It's I voted for JBL in the other parts because JBL did have this meaningful title reign and everything like that, but he's up against John Cena. There's no argument.
Yeah, I agree with you 110%. Even though JBL's been re-signed as a SmackDown commentator.
Thank God.
Yeah, tell me about it. He brings more flavour to it. With John Cena, I don't see Cena and Layfield as a sort of a contest. Cena eclipses Layfield's 1 reign with his, was it like 10 reigns?
It's 10 now.
Yeah, it's 10 reigns as WWE Champion. So, within those reigns, some of them have been lackluster. Others have been pretty good. He's had some awesome matches with guys like Umaga and the Great Khali, to name a few. He's made a lot of guys look golden. So as far as I'm concerned, Cena has had more time to adjust being champion and has developed himself to that level. He's one of the biggest players in the WWE, so you can't, over JBL, you can't literally
on top of that. Cena's first reign was the same length, actually, as JBL's only reign as champion. Then he went on to have the over a year-long title reign a bit after that. So, he spent a pretty, good amount of time as champion. When you spread over 10 reigns,
and he's the face of the company.
Yeah, but I believe JBL's initial first reign was better than Cena's first reign. That's me though, because I felt the way he won it from JBL was kind of crap in comparison, because that was I believe that was at WrestleMania, wasn't it?
Yes.
And it was a rather quick match. It was superseded by the World Heavyweight Championship match, which was Batista versus Triple H.
Yeah, that should have been the main event.
Yeah, and Cena, it was the main event, I believe.
No, the JBL Cena one should have been the main event.
Oh, the JBL Cena one should have been the main event. But that was at the time where the World Heavyweight Championship took precedence over the WWE Championship.
Yeah, crazy to think about that now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What do you mean? Obviously, Sheamus is so much better.
Oh, yeah.
The thing that I found, the build up to the feud between Cena and JBL was actually better than the match itself. And again, John Cena was really green in that position. You know, he has developed quite a fair bit in comparison to JBL's initial reign. And again, if JBL had 10 reigns, I believe he probably would have been gone further on the tournament in comparison to Cena now. But that's me.
That brings us to a tough one. CM Punk and Randy Savage. I actually didn't decide until a couple hours ago, where I ended up just, you know what, I'm going to go with CM Punk because this title reign has been great.
CM Punk precedes all. That's,
should I just vote for him out of my fandom? Like,
I love Randy Savage.
I'm a huge Savage fan too, and he had like a year-long title reign too, didn't he?
Yeah, but let me blow your mind in regards to this. Savage originally wasn't
just somebody try to win me over here. Like,
Savage wasn't set to win the WWE Championship. He was actually set to win the Intercontinental Championship as a face from the Honky Tonk Man.
Yeah, but Honky didn't want to drop the belt.
There you go. And they seed the feuds. They sowed the seeds between him and Hogan in regards to the Mega Powers Collide at WrestleMania. Oh, what was it? WrestleMania? Was it WrestleMania 3? Or was it WrestleMania 4?
4 was the tournament. 5 was the Mega Powers exploding.
5 was Mega Powers exploding.
Yes.
Correct. Again, you look at it that way. The feud was always going to happen between the two of them, but the title brought a lot more to it. But with Savage's year-long reign, it wasn't as impressive until he started feuding with Hogan, if that made sense. You know, he went from being a babyface to a heel rather quickly. And for me, his first reign was lackluster in comparison to his second reign, which he had against Ric Flair. Ric Flair put him over big time in terms of his initial title reign. With Punk's a different story. Now, the one thing I feel that supersedes it is the amount of controversy that surrounded Punk's first reign as WWE Champion, which, as we all know, was when he dropped the initial pipe bomb and was going to go on to do something amazing. He left the company for a short time with the WWE Championship belt. People were getting all freaked out. People were wondering if it's a work or a shoot. A lot of attention was being brought back to the WWE, and it blew CM Punk out as a main event star in comparison to the fact that he was just being really lackluster. Well, not the fact that he was lackluster, but the booking committee wasn't doing anything with him. So if you look at that in comparison to Savage's first reign, I would go with Punk. If you look at Savage's second reign in comparison to Punk's second reign, again, I would go with Punk because he's done a hell of a lot with this reign. And he's going into one of the biggest matches in his career with The Rock at the Royal Rumble.
Against The Rock, yeah.
So, for me, and, there has been murmurs.
Spoiler alert, we didn't get to the Survivor Series part yet.
It doesn't matter.
Oh, well, that's a completely different pay-per-view.
But in the end,
if
you look at the result, if you look at the result and you look at Punk's character and you look at the transitions between his initial reign as WWE Champion to the second reign, both reigns have meant something. Whereas Savage,
kind of similar too. Like, didn't Savage initially start out his title reign as a face, then turn heel on Hogan after having the championship for a face for a while?
Yeah,
like
but
similar as Punk, he started out his second reign, as a face, and then
can you name me
7 months through it, he turns heel. Yeah.
Can you name me Savage's opponents when he was a face? In this title reign, in his first initial reign, can you name me his opponents?
Oh,
exactly.
You got to rack your brain.
The main
ones,
the main feud for that title reign was Hogan,
right?
And that's after he turned heel. So literally, you could say the first, 10, 11 months of his reign meant nothing because you can't remember it. And I'm not saying it wasn't that impactful. I'm just saying in comparison to Punk, I can remember every single feud that Punk's gone through. Yeah. And it's not because I'm a CM Punk fanboy. the feud for Punk was Cena when he initially won the title. Then he unified the
True.
belts at was it SummerSlam? Yeah, it was SummerSlam before.
Yep. And then he got the Money in the Bank cashed in on him right after the match.
Yeah, after he got powerbombed by Kevin Nash, and again it was impactful. If the WWE actually kept on
booking him properly,
yeah, then he would have, actually had an amazing reign. I would have, truthfully, I would have liked him.
Yes.
Yeah. So
as
far as I'm concerned, Punk all the way.
Yeah. So Punk, that's a 13-5 vote now. But Savage still has a chance to make up for it, though. It's not too much. There's also a 13-5 vote when it comes to Hulk Hogan and Edge. Hulk Hogan's winning right now. Yeah. Love Edge, but, got to go for Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, you got to go with the Hulkster.
Yeah.
Who made that belt anywhere near as important as him.
Right.
With, an argument could be made for, Bret and Austin and John Cena to a degree, but Hogan was before all of them, so...
Well, Bret admitted, anyone who actually purchased the Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart World's Greatest Rivalries disc set between the two, he actually admitted on the set that his reign was literally just a filler reign, moving on to the next big thing. Bret's reign, in terms of being a quality WWE Championship reign, it was great. It showed that these guys could, smaller guys could actually main event for the title.
He was in a transitional spot.
Yeah, but in comparison, it was a transitional spot to the next big thing.
Right.
Such as what we've got at the moment. We have, Punk could have been the next big thing, but he's not the next big thing.
They chopped his legs out from under him, though. They didn't push him all the way. They weren't interested in making him, the guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he has the tools to do so. I mean, there was no reason with all the momentum he had in July that they couldn't have made him the top star in the entire business. I mean, he was that, he had that kind of NWO-ish momentum going.
Yeah,
which is kind of crazy to talk about, but he did.
The thing is as well, especially with his reign at the moment, they could have easily put him into a stable, and have him lead a group of key players, guys who could be main event in the future, to dominate the WWE.
The last two didn't really end up too well.
Yeah, but again, that's not Punk's fault. That's the WWE's fault. The Straight Edge Society was golden. It was the biggest stable on the planet. They decided to throw the Nexus in there.
They should have never disbanded the Straight Edge. They didn't even let that thing. He got so much heat during that time. I felt... And
as straight edge as I am, I was still
Swagger's champion, yet Jesus Punk isn't, and he's getting 3,000 times more heat. He should have been SmackDown's top heel during that time, and they just fucked him around the entire time, and then they disbanded his stable for no reason. And that's really what pissed him off going into the year that his contract was expiring, was because of that whole situation.
Yeah, and now if you look at that, and you look at Edge's reign comparisons to guys like Hogan.
Oh yeah, it's not even.
There's no comparison.
There's absolutely no comparison whatsoever. Yeah.
But you look at Edge. Edge's reign was meaningful for Edge.
Mm-hmm.
For him as for an accolade for your career.
Yeah, well, it elevated him to a main event position. Yeah. And it kept him. It solidified him there, right?
For the rest of his career, pretty much, once he won the title.
The most important thing that Edge's first title reign did was solidify Money in the Bank.
Yeah, that too.
Because without doing that, then Money in the Bank could have fallen by the wayside like the Scramble match did, which I still think is cool. But
the Scramble match was awesome. I don't understand why they haven't actually re-implemented that at some point, but we'll talk about that later. Yeah. But in terms of Edge's reign, he did something amazing, but it wasn't as impactful as Hogan's, and thus I don't feel it transitions to anything bigger. Edge's reign was great for Edge. It was great for the main event scene.
Hogan's reign was kind of great for the entire business.
Yeah, right.
Damn straight. And it made
one gimmick match versus an entire organization and every other one.
Yeah, and the fact is, Hogan still has that drawing power. and it's because of his initial WWE Championship reign, because Hogan, became this icon in a way, this entity, which elevates championship. Hero. Yeah, and that's it. You can't literally compare apples to oranges.
And then that brings us to Bret Hart and Kurt Angle. Bret Hart's winning 13-6 right now. Yeah, he's got my vote. We kind of already hinted that we on that. Yeah, we kind of said already a lot of stuff about Bret that kind of spoilerish, I guess you could say, that we're probably going to vote for Hogan over Bret when it comes down to it. But Bret would put up at least a little bit of a fight against Hogan. Obviously,
biggest thing for Bret, Survivor Series, biggest thing.
Yeah. Obviously, he puts up more of a threat against Hogan than Kurt Angle does.
Yeah. Montreal Screwjob.
Right. So that right there means you have to go for Bret over Kurt. So.
But even in terms of title reigns, I think it's a no-brainer. I mean, every one of Bret's title reigns meant a lot more than Kurt Angle's in general.
Right.
And the reason being is Kurt was a great talker. He was a great wrestler.
Yeah, when he was in WWE, I was a huge Kurt Angle fan.
Yeah, and he had some huge matches with Brock Lesnar. But in turn of being a quality WWE champion, he just
wasn't.
Yeah, he was at the same level as Bret, but I think Bret was higher than him in terms of transitioning. Kurt was transitioning the title over to Brock Lesnar. He was literally, Brock Lesnar was becoming the biggest, the next big thing in the company.
To go to the NFL.
Yeah, and Angle got him over, and no one's disputing that. But it's the same thing as if you look at Savage's title reign, and the fact that Savage's title reign was used to get Hogan the championship, to continue Hulkamania. Mm-hmm. Angle was there to elevate Brock Lesnar, nothing more, nothing less. With Bret, at least, you could still
say he was kind of like the guy when he was holding the title at least one of those reigns.
Well, Angle, no.
Yeah,
he was playing second fiddle.
Yeah, whereas at least some point during Bret's run, you could say, he was the guy. I mean, he's the guy to beat, whereas Angle is okay, who's he going to drop it to next?
Right. Is it going to be Austin? Is it going to be The Rock? Is it going to be Undertaker?
There's a big difference.
Again, he's similar to Edge.
Very.
Because Angle was lost in the shuffle of huge main event players where you had the Austins, the Rocks, the Triple H's, and Angle's initial reign came to sort of bring Angle into the main event scene and say, right, he's a key main event player. When Angle had the title on the SmackDown, it was literally to give Lesnar that extra push, to make him that big star that he should be. And thus, didn't really do anything for Angle. Great, he had the championship, but if he doesn't get knocked out by Bret Hart, Angle would probably get knocked out by the next guy.
Oh, yeah. I think both of them are going to get knocked out anyway, but it should be Bret Hart. He'd put up more of a fight.
I think we're looking at, out of this little sector, John Cena against Hulk Hogan.
I agree. So
we'll see what happens with that. Make sure you guys vote when you can at the website. There should be a link below. And same old with that. Shuts off at midnight Wednesday morning. So then we'll move on to the next part and finish off round 3 and keep steamrolling through this. Next part of this episode of Smack Talk, we will talk about the TNA Turning Point 2012 pay-per-view review, and then we'll start moving on to WWE.